Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Today I have my special guest again, Dan Foster.
Hello.
That's very succinct. Well, let me just say that I'm very excited today to do this podcast. I know it's been a minute since I've been doing any videos or online. It's because there's been a lot of work behind the scenes ever since the discovery underneath the Giza Plateau. That was really a big impetus for everything that I've done since then and that I'm going to do. So it's an exciting time. The reason for the podcast today is because we want to present to you updated and new information that we have about things that I'm sure is everyone's very curious about. So the first thing we're going to go over is the clarification of my video, The Great Sphinx Mystery. And then two, the new discoveries underneath the Giza Plateau. All right. What Dan and I wanted to go over with you to talk to you about regarding the Great Sphinx Mystery is if you've watched that video, you know that I had posited that there was a second Sphinx, not necessarily another Sphinx. First of all, Sphinx means a mystery, right? So it was the great mystery. And in my video, I had put two lions just because I didn't look any further into it. But when I did talk about it with Dan, we do what we do. And he looked deeper into it and he was able to show me what was actually the other structure there. So moving forward, I'm going to call them guardians. Okay, so we have the first guardian, the lion, and then we have the second guardian. So Dan, do you want to talk to them about who the second guardian is at the time of Zeptepi? Zeptepi meaning the first ages, when the gods and goddesses walk the earth.
From what we're thinking through meditation, through downloads and such, and even through constellation maps, it's looking like on the other side, equidistant from the center, what would be the three pyramids to the Sphinx. If we go to the other side, we're looking at most likely would be a statue of the goddess Sophia, who would later become the goddess Isis. And if we are correct, and with the way things are basically mapped around, we're looking at this guardian is going to be looking in the opposite direction of the Sphinx.
Okay. I don't know about you, but I was pretty astounded when I heard this, and it makes sense because at Septepi, which is basically a gathering of what we call the Ennead, but a gathering of the first gods and goddesses, or really off-worlders that came to Earth. It was a statue erected of the goddess Sophia. And the reason why we feel it's the goddess Sophia, but honestly, in my heart, I know it's the goddess Sophia, is because one, it makes sense because the goddess Sophia is part of the I am. So we do have what is considered God, but we also have, so that's the masculine, the sacred masculine. We also have the other side of that would be which would be the sacred feminine. So we have God and Goddess Supreme, and that is the goddess Sophia, who is considered in off-worlder terms a Sophir, hence Sophia. So she is goddess supreme, and then the other goddesses are considered that goddesses, and they lovingly defer to her. So it's nothing really like a competition. It's just hierarchical, and she is the other side of the I am. So regarding the Great Sphinx mystery, we have the lion guardian representing the Lyrans facing the Leo constellation at the age in the age of Leo, which was approximately 12,500 years ago. or 12,000 years ago, essentially 10,500 BC. I can't do the math right now. I'm sorry, everyone. So we have the Lion Guardian facing east, the constellation of Leo, and then we have the goddess Sophia, the female warrior guardian, facing west, the constellation of Aquarius. And then all the information in that video, The Great Sphinx Mystery, it still holds. The messages are still valid and relevant. It was just a matter of who was the other statue. Now, what Dan had touched on is actually a very exciting mystery solved. The Great Sphinx, excuse me, the Lion Guardian is approximately 2,220 feet from the center of the Khafre Pyramid. So the center of the Khafre Pyramid, the point, from there to the Sphinx, it's approximately that distance. So if we follow what we know about the spirits, the off-worlders, laws of the universe always acts in balance. So if there is a structure facing east, there's going to be a structure facing west, equidistant, which will be from the center of the Khafre Pyramid, 2,220 feet. When this all came about, when I discovered this, I was just flabbergasted and very excited. It's just that's all I can say. I just get speechless at it. So you're probably wondering, is there any evidence of where she stood? And I'll give this over to Dan because he can talk to you about what happened with the statue and why it went from the goddess Sophia to the goddess Isis.
So in this case, we don't know if anything is there. It could be there, but it could be still buried. Just like how the Sphinx was when it was really first discovered. It took them time to dig out the rest of the body. Before, when they found it, it was just a head. So a lot of that came later. So it's a very good chance that it's most likely buried, or at least there's a base with some type of feet that might be still around that hasn't been uncovered yet. And it's funny, we're talking about this, and all I keep hearing about is don't forget about the north and the south. There might be other guardians within those locations also. But from what I saw, there's a building close by or near there of, I don't remember what it is, we talked about so long ago, I can't remember, but there's a building around in that area right now. I can't remember if it was a water treatment or it was for like a tourism site, something in that location. But
No, it's further northwest. It's not near the site where it stands. I'll upload the Google Maps photo too. It's northwest of where the Guardian stood.
okay,
So
yeah, it is. But it's in that general location, though. That's what I'm saying. Not underneath the building, but in that location.
mhm.
What else?
Well, when we had discussed this, you had said that the reason why, also a possible reason, and most likely a reason why the female guardian is no longer standing, is because when a patriarchal system emerged.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we talked about that last night. That's why you definitely will see that gone. And you're starting to see the downfall, a lot of the goddess worships. And during that time period, you see a more of a patriarchal and then a monotheistic approach coming around. So most likely it's part of the reason why it is gone. I mean, if we look at history, it is not unfounded that tribes would destroy areas or things that they have conquered, destroyed other civilizations' histories in order to preserve their own. So that's why it's hard to say, is there any evidence of that statue left or not? And if there is, it's not like we're going to have a full statue. We're going to see a base with probably feet or legs around.
Agreed. Agreed. And it's not uncommon back in those days too. I mean, they didn't sit there and go like, well, this will be important in the future. They
Yeah.
answered immediate needs. And a lot of times, materials, those kind of materials are highly valued. So temples would just be disassembled and repurposed. So
Mhm.
that's also another reason. But
That's a
mainly,
perfect segue right there to get into the pyramid. The repurposing of a certain material or a certain object.
mm-hmm. So that now leads into the exciting discussion of the discoveries under the Giza Plateau. So if you haven't heard of what's happening or you just need your, just a little refresher, there is a team and Armando May is part of it. And all of their names are escaping me right now because I'm talking about this, but I remembered him because he was not always mentioned, but he has been in the, ancient theorists forum before in many discussions about other discoveries. So essentially, what happened was there was a team, and I will put it in the description. I'm very sorry I don't remember off the top of my head right now. Actually, because I'm on my laptop, I can look at them. Okay. Here we go. I apologize. Corrado Malanga from the University of Pisa, Filippo Biondi, and Armando May. They use a technology. It's an emergent technology called SAR, Synthetic Aperture Radar Doppler Tomography. And so what happened is they had prior interest into in historic sites like this anyway, but they pointed their SAR tech at the pyramids, and an incredible thing happened. Their press release says this cutting edge technology is capable of revealed underground structures invisible to traditional methods and revealed internal structures never seen before beneath the pyramids. So this press release was issued March 15th. So it's thereabouts that all of this hubbub began. So what the SAR does, if you're not familiar with it, and by no means am I an expert on it, but what the SAR does isn't it doesn't X-ray the site. What it does is it uses, I think it bounces energies off of voids in structures, and those voids create a picture. And like I said, I'm not an expert in this. I'm not going to read the press release right now, but you can find it out there, and it'll tell you how the technology works. But moving forward, what they found was nothing short of astounding. Okay, they found beneath the Giza Plateau, namely this one, they aimed it at the Khafre pyramid, which is the middle one. They found eight cylindrical tunnels. Okay, five, it looks like, I'm going to say huts, five hut structures beneath. And then further down beneath all of that, they found two cubes. Okay, and then we'll go through the detail. I'm just doing an overview right now. We'll go through the detail of what each one of those layers is. Now, before we did this podcast, and because I haven't been doing any videos, I've just really gone down the rabbit hole because of all this and into all of this. So we're doing this podcast after a lot of research, a lot of meditating, and like what Dan says, downloads. So beneath the Giza plateau, we have five identical sloped roof chambers. These are my words. This isn't from the press release or anything. There's five identical sloped roof chambers. They're not burial tombs, but harmonic chambers. So we have, if we're looking at sacred geometry, we have the sacred pentagram, which is five, and then the human body, which is also considered like a sacred pentagram. We have the head, the hands, and the feet. So likely these sloped roof chambers were used for frequency amplification and scalar coherence field generation. Scalar is another word for longitudinal waves. Yes, do your own research on scalar and all of this. We're doing an overview. It's obviously not, a lecture or a class. We're just sharing with you what we've learned. And then next, we have the 8 spiral wells, and they are approximately 648 meters deep, okay, from the surface. So these wells, they look like cylinders. There's 8 of them, right? I think they run in 2 parallels of 4 columns. Now, the spiral, so around the columns, there's a spiral, okay, and it looks like could be a staircase, a stairwell for beings to go down there, but it could also be, like what Dan says, some type of pathway for energy. And we'll get to that. So the spiral equals the phi resonance. It also mimics, or it also looks like the DNA spiral, and it also touches on universal geometry. So these spiral wells act as vortex stabilizers in multi-dimensional access pathways. So there's scalar frequency conduction from surface to core and back. Okay. And then we have the 2 colossal cubes. They're 80 by 80 meters. So what we posit is they are energy capacitors storing living plasma, vril or tachyon. Now, the 2 cubes act as dual polarity. One regulates magnetic feminine current and the other electric masculine current. Both of them act to maintain internal coherence of planetary life force. In this podcast, I'm going to also upload a picture of this so you can follow along and see what we're talking about. Now, the reason why I'm talking a million miles an hour, I'm very excited, is because we have, through meditation and downloads, and a lot of verification of things in the ways that Dan and I do, we feel that this entire thing with the guardians on the surface, the 3 pyramids, and the structures below, we feel that this is what we call the Giza engine. Is essentially terraforming. It was a terraforming technology. It acted as a frequency regulator, a plasma transmitter, and also memory halls. Now, why we call it the Giza engine, why we're saying terraforming, is because if you think about it, this planet in Zeptepi was one of the grandest experiments in the universe, right? It was called the planet of the children. Each one of us contains a multitude of DNA from several different off-worlders across the Federation, right? It was a directive in order to plant peace amongst the different species due to the Orion Wars, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. We'll get into those way down the line, but for now, essentially that's what Earth was considered. So Zeptepi is talking about when the off-worlders first came to the planet. Now, if you think about it, say like we went to the moon, off-worlders of different physiologies, frequencies, they just like when we went to the moon, can't just walk out and step out on there and be like, I'm comfortable. What they had to do, because they're working across many different species, many different dimensions, is they began terraforming planet Earth. And the Giza engine, we call it, is the terraforming engine. But it's not like terraforming in that negative connotation that we see in the movies. It was ensuring that the planet was hospitable to different frequencies, different vibrations, different types of bodies. Like I said, it was very primordial back then. It was a backwater planet. I mean, we were still being created. And I'm talking Zeptepi. I'm not talking 20,000 years ago, Atlantean times. I'm talking Zeptepi. So that is part of the function of the Giza engine. It is also portal, a stargate. Um, it was a multitude of things, an energy generator, and as Dan calls it, a planetary mall. You
Oh
could,
yeah, so I figured the pyramid during times it shifted functions. So we're talking about this right now, and if we look at the creation stories, whether it be in the Bible or India, Japan, other tribes, one of the first things they talk about is the development of land. All of a sudden, a land was formed. So were these pyramids and other pyramids, so we're not just talking about what we're seeing within Giza right now, but the others that are across the world, were they all planted in a way to cause certain volcanic or tectonic plate interruptions in order to create the land masses to start out with, and even to the point creating, better air quality and even the ozone layer, all of it. Could that have been a terraforming agent? And that just, goes down into our written histories as, the creation of this planet, just beyond the Big Bang, but, later on. And so, yeah, but that's could have been its original use and then transform its use into a radio signal, because even of how the cylinders are, the cylindrical shapes and that coiling, and that's the same thing that you see in radio towers, or even when radio frequencies and radio use was first being introduced to us again. It was, wires wrapped around cylinders or pipes. And then from there, its use turns into, saying, hey, ding, microwave is done. Come on down now. Or it's things like that. It's theory, it's downloads, but maybe it's something we can prove down the line. But then all of a sudden it turns into energy uses, because what are those areas that are tapped into? Are they tapped into massive crystal grids, internal crystal grids? That are they still there? Are they not there anymore? We don't know that unless, either we're being blocked from knowing, or and then from there you see how it could be used into almost like a Stargate system. And could that, you know, lead into a wormhole creation to be able, for extraterrestrials to travel to our system faster from areas where Orion is, from Andromeda, from Sirian. Could it be something like that? And then and then it just develops over into, tomb. Yeah, everyone thinks it's a tomb, but we have to look at it how people think, oh, we have to do it this way so we can go back to our gods and be where they are, to go where they went. So how do we do that? We put our dead bodies in with those tombs, and so that our spirits can, and then utilize that energetic line that's probably still there on a different frequency that we can't physically see as a human, but our spirit goes back up to in those particular entities. There's a lot that those pyramids have played use for. That's why I call it almost like a strip mall in a way, if you want to call it that. It's multifunctional. It has done many things. It has served in many purposes. It wasn't just one thing, but it has served throughout time. And then all of a sudden, a lot of it gets stripped down or disappears. And those cylinders are hollow. What were those cylinders, and therefore, not just even a energetic source, but a structural hold also, almost like a shock system, to be able to hold up something as heavy and as magnificent as those pyramids are. but multifunctional use. I mean, you look at it, those structures look like a Tesla coil. And if those Tesla coils are under full control, what kind of energies can it put out? I mean, we've seen the pictures of Nikola Tesla next to his coils and those big, massive bolts of energy and lightning coming out. What can that be utilized for when it's fully harnessed and concentrated? You know, and so that's just my little 2 cents.
No, I think, well, I feel like I resonate with that, especially if you look at them and I am gonna add it to this podcast. If you look at them, it looks like a coil. It looks like an engine.
Yeah.
So we have a few minutes left only, but Dan touched on this. Who are the civilizations? There were many. We have the Lyrans, the ones from Sirius, Arcturians, Andromedans, Orions, Mantis, so many different. Oh, and the Anunnaki. I was just told, and the Anunnaki. There were many different off-worlders that came for this grand experiment. Now, people are wondering, why are we discovering this? And I feel like, well, one, it has to do with being in the age of Aquarius, which has to do with technology, right? And also enlightenment. And two, there are, I would say, star seeds planted here where their coherence is aligning. So they're getting able to see this. And so as we become coherent and align, it starts waking this Giza engine. It's not dead, it's only dormant. So as we
The discovery of this, or rediscovery of this, could help us in the manufacturing and development of being able to create physical contact again. Not just spiritual or mental, which is a lot of what we have now, but a full-on physical contact. And, it's just the beginning of it. And
Mhm.
hopefully it could be something that won't be stifled or shoved away or, hidden away forcefully by others so that we can really get humanity back on the course it's meant to be on. Because we are way far out in left field someplace.
Mhm. Humanity as a whole, but I feel like the core of humanity, I
The
can just
core of
feel them.
humanity is coming back to life,
Yeah, I
to
can
where
feel
the eyes
them.
are opening. And so, with the eyes opening, the energies are going to come back into the balance of the ways of unification, of technological development, spiritual development, physical development. You see that all of it needs to be united and none of it's separated. And I think with the discovery of this, as long as certain people don't shut others up, we can start on an actual massive age of Aquarius to rediscover who we are, because we have to bring back the old sciences, the old technologies, because that stuff is way far more advanced than what we have today.
Yes, I'd agree. I'd agree. It's twofold. It's somewhere in many places the internal coherence is happening, which is starting to trigger, like a fire. A fire is spreading, a holy fire in the sense, a spiritual fire. Now, when I say holy fire, I'm not talking human religions, okay? Please, let's keep that
Yeah.
out of this.
It's
Anyway,
an
we want
internal,
to,
that holy fire is an internal fire that's within all of us, that drive, that life force that keeps us going. That is your holy fire.
exactly. And I have a message for it's a transmission from the grid, from the network. The engine below Giza does not wait for governments, it waits for harmonic resonance. So, what that means is it's waiting for all of us to become coherent and become aligned. And now, what does coherent mean? It means that mind, body, spirit are aligned. So, what we think, what we say, and what we do are all the same.
Mhm.
Okay, that's the bell. Our time is up. We want to thank you so much for tuning in, and there will be more. And I'll also be posting exciting news, um, some videos, and new material. Um,
Yep, yep.
so if thank you for joining us, and if you want to be uh, kept in the loop, please subscribe, put on your notifications, or just follow along. And we want to thank you and let you know that we appreciate you very much. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you.